Good morning, scholars. Happy Tuesday. Um, good morning, scholars. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to your 7th grade Vista Virtual Lit class. Let's check out how our turn-in rates were yesterday. Got a big jump where more students are getting access to internet and Chromebooks. We're getting more and more students logging on and knocking out these lessons. So great job. Keep it up. Let's check our work. This is where you need to kind of minimize this window, put it off to the side, pull up your exit ticket so you can see side by side so that you can compare your answers to the ones that I'm going to go over. So pause the video, minimize this window so you can see both the video because I'm going to be showing you some students' answers, and make sure you can see your own work next to it. So that way you can kind of pick up on how you can modify the way that you're answering these questions to get a better score. All right, here's my spotlights for questions 1 through 3. Question 1, I didn't find anyone's answer that I loved, so I used my own, but I pulled question 2 from Ba, I pulled question 3 from Nevaeh. So let's look at question 1. Question 1 asked, what is Buck learning to do for the first time and who teaches him? What he learned to do for the first time, and this is literally immediately after Curly was killed, he just kind of had a harness thrown on him and they went. He learned to pull a sled for the first time. And this is tricky. I want to say the people that taught him this, and I noticed too in a lot of your responses we're using the word people when we're talking about dogs. So I'll just say the ones who showed him how to do this. First off, there was Francois, because he's the one with the whip. He's giving the orders. I said Francois gives orders and corrects him with his whip when Buck does something wrong. But it wasn't just Francois. Two of his fellow dogs were correcting him and teaching him too. Dave and Spitz. Dave is right behind him, and he's nipping it at Buck whenever Buck is doing something wrong to let him know to, like, hey, cut that out. Spitz is the lead dog. He's up front, and Spitz is also teaching him by growling at him, turning around and growling at him when he's doing something wrong. And he also leans into the traces to show him, like, no, we're going this way. Traces, guys, remember, is another word for those ropes or the harnesses that all the dogs are connected to as they pull the sled. All right. We met 2 new dogs, Joe and Billy, and I asked you how are they contrasted, meaning how is it shown that they're different, and who out of those 2 has the better chance of survival. I pulled Ba's answer for this one because I thought it was pretty thorough and it was accurate. Ba said Billy is a good-natured, fun-loving dog, while Joe is very grumpy and sour and serious. And like he gets stuff done. He's not very social. He likes being alone. Joe has a better chance of survival because he's aware of his surrounding and he doesn't play when it comes to his survival and his safety. Yes. One of the misconceptions on this one, guys, it said that Billy is good natured. So a lot of people said, oh, good natured, that means he can survive in nature. That's not what nature means in this sense. Good natured means friendly, easygoing, right? So Billy is kind of really friendly and nice. Joe's the exact opposite. And yes, from what we're learning, being nice and friendly in this environment actually does not help you survive. And Nevaeh is actually going to hit on that idea in her answer to number 3. Number 3, what does Buck learn about another new dog we met, Solex? Nevaeh said that Buck learned from Solex. Well, the literal thing that Buck's learned that you might have put about Solex is missing an eye. Buck learns not to approach Solex from the blind side because he did so and Solex slashed him and actually hurt his shoulder. So the simple thing that Buck learns about Solex is don't approach him from his blind side because he's kind of defensive and he'll attack. Nevaeh got to a deeper lesson that Buck learned about Solex. She learns from Solex that he should be aware all the time because others don't always have the right intentions. And here's the insightful part. And he should always be aware and live long like Solex. There are 2 older dogs in this group. Dave is old. Solex is old. but they're tough and they're also mean. So it's not a coincidence that two of the grumpier, meaner dogs are also older, right? Because that um, fierce, don't mess with me attitude has enabled them to survive for longer. We saw what happened to our friend Curly with her nice attitude, right? Um, Having kind of tough, mean attitude seems to help you survive longer in this atmosphere. All right, let's look at the deeper, the ASAC question, where I asked, what is a trait that Buck exhibits to increase his chances of survival in his new environment? The key word in the question, scholars, is trait. A trait is a mindset, right? Or a mental attribute. Some people took really specific skills that Buck is learning and saying that that will help him to survive. You know, some skills that Buck learned. He learns to pull a sled, right? That might help him survive because it'll make him useful. He learns to dig a hole in the snow to stay warm. I know that sounds super counterintuitive. You would think that if they dig holes in the snow, they'll be even colder. But when you enclose an area, the heat gets trapped inside and it's actually warmer than it would be outside. All right. That's why the Inuit Indians built igloos, right? You think that it would melt. I don't know how it works. I just know that it works. Anyways, a lot of us wrote about skills that Buck learned that are going to help him survive. You were supposed to pick up on a trait, right? Go deeper. What trait does Buck have inside that enables him to learn those skills? An example of a student who went deep and found a trait was Jacqueline. Jacqueline pulled a trait that he has that's going to help him survive is his confidence, right? She did hit in her evidence on now he learns how to that he does learn to dig himself a hole, but that makes him more confident. He's going to need confidence in this new environment if he's going to survive. Another student who hit on a trait was Catherine. She actually hit on two. She said two traits that he's exhibiting that are going to help him is he's fearless and he's smart. To prove that he's becoming fearless. She gave the 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 evidence right here of the savage dogs rushed on him, but he bristled and snarled and they left him alone. Her analysis was Buck is fearless of other dogs. He will get what he wants. He'll not be bothered. To prove that he's smart, she also used the evidence of him learning how to dig a hole for the first time to sleep warmly, not freeze in the cold. Her analysis of that was by using his brain and being smart, Buck can survive the extreme weather and other extreme conditions. So good job, Jacqueline and Catherine, at diving deep past the evidence and finding the underlying traits that allowed them to happen. We're picking right where um, actually I want to show you my exemplar for that one. No, those are fine. Um, what I was going to say, the trait that he shows is his adaptability, right? Because Buck is so good at adapting and learning on the fly, he seems to be doing well. He's not feeling bad for himself. He's not thinking about what his old life was like. He's here and he's learning. That's why I've been giving you so many questions about what's Buck learning, what's Buck learning, what's Buck learning. It's because you see him learning so much, that shows that he's adaptable. He is watching others, he's seeing what works, he's copying that. When he sees something that doesn't work, he knows not to do that, right? So he looked at Billy's hole. It's like, oh, I'm going to copy this because this works. This is how I can sleep. He watched Curly be killed for being friendly. He's like, I'm not going to do that. Buck is really adaptable. And that's one trait that is allowing him to change and learn on the fly that seems to be helping him out, right? So today, for our lesson, I said Buck continues to learn valuable lessons on the fly. We're going to dive deep into a strange experience that Buck has at the very beginning of today's. chapter, and I'm going to ask you. We're going to think about why did Jack London, the author, include this experience? Right. Our focus question we're thinking about is how was Buck able to adapt and survive in the wild? Let's look at today's exit ticket, just so I can kind of set you up for success on this one. Um, if you're reading the PDF, we're picking up on page 18. If you're reading the book, we're picking up on page 13. If you are also listening to the audiobook while you follow along, I include the audiobook minutes right here. We're picking up at the minute 36, 22 seconds. We're ending today at 42 minutes and 38 seconds. Today I'm going to ask you some more comprehension questions just so you can kind of, you're still picking up on the events and the characters. So you're going to notice how Dave and Solix, the two grouchy, older, tough dogs, kind of change whenever it's time to run and to work. You're going to see Buck learn a new thing about being a sled dog. Who teaches him this? And here's your focus question. Your focus question, I pulled a paragraph from the very beginning of this section, where he's just waking up from sleeping inside the hole that he dug. He gets confused for a second, and what he does in his confusion is really interesting. So I'll pull it up actually on the PDF so you can read with me. Picking up on page 18. Okay, so right here at the bottom of page 18, he slept through the night even though he had bad dreams. Let's pick up on nor did he, right? Nor did he open his eyes till roused by the noises of the waking camp. At first he did not know where he was. It had snowed during the night, and he was completely buried. The snow walls pressed him on every side, and a great surge of fear swept through him. The fear of the wild thing for the trap. It was a token that he was harking back through his own life to the lives of his forebears. Forebears means his ancestors. For he was a civilized dog, an unduly civilized dog, and of his own experience knew no trap, and so he could not himself fear it. Meaning, Buck is a tame, raised by man, was never like a wild dog. He's never seen a trap or experienced a trap, yet he's scared of it right now. He feels like he's in a trap, but he's never even been in one or seen one. The muscles of his whole body contracted spasmodically and instinctively. The hair on his neck and shoulders stood on end, and with the ferocious snarl he bounded up straight into the blinding day, the snow flying about him in a flashing cloud. Ere he landed on his feet, he saw the white camp spread out before him, and he knew where he was, and remembered all that had passed from the time he went for a stroll with Manuel to the hole he had dug for himself the night before. I want to zoom in on this scene right here when that fear surges through him that he's in a trap. It said it was a token that he was harking back through his own life to the lives of his forebears. For he was a civilized dog, an unduly civilized dog, and of his own experience knew no trap, so he could not himself fear it. My question for you is, why does Buck react this way, despite the fact that he's never been in a trap, seen a trap, but when he wakes up in this experience, why does he react like this, right? Try to break it down, explain it, because it's kind of our first preview of an important theme that's gonna come up a lot more as we go through this book. The Call of the Wild, right? All right. Have fun, stay focused, take your time, produce your best work. It was really exciting for myself and Miss McKinney to have so many great options to choose from when we were picking the answers that we wanted to show you to use as exemplars. It really speaks to how careful scholars you guys are starting to be in your writing, in your thinking, and I can't wait to see even more of it. You guys have a great day and enjoy the Call of the Wild.